How's it going, Rogues Gallery? Today we have another Flesh and Blood video, and today we have my top 10 favorite cards for Crucible of War. I think this set is actually incredibly sweet, and we're going to be doing a little bit more than a top 10 list. I think we're going to do about 12 cards or so. We're going to cover every single card in the set that's not a reprint, including the heroes, and there's some really sweet heroes. I'm a pretty big fan of the Blitz format, and some of these heroes are fantastic for that format. There were a ton of really sweet cards in this set, and it was really hard for me to boil it down. So yeah, without further ado, let's take a look at my list, and maybe in the comments share what your top 10 favorite cards of Crucible of War are, because like I said, I think there's a lot of really cool stuff in this set.
So let's kick the list off with Stamp Authority. First of all, I want to note that this is in no particular order except for the very last card that we're going to talk about today. Stamp Authority is a Guardian action aura, not an attack, which is pretty cool. It has a 3 pitch value, costs 3 to play. It is one of the Majestics. It has a defense of 3. It says, when Stamp Authority enters the arena, if you have 2 or more cards in your pitch zone with cost 3 or greater, your hero gains +1 mind stat, or whatever you want to call it, until end of turn, which means you're going to draw an additional card at the end of your turn, which is quite good. It also says, while Stamp Authority is in the arena, attack action cards effects do not trigger when they hit. Oh man, I love that. This is my favorite part of this card. I love silver bullet cards like this. So if you're playing against an opponent that has a lot of those, attack action hit effect triggers, this card is going to really shut them down. I can think of, Red in the Ledger. There's a lot of really good cards out there that do this, and this really, basically stamps them down. And then it says, at the beginning of your action phase, destroy Stamp Authority. Once again, I love silver bullet cards like this. This also helps prevent effects like that from getting too out of control, so they can kind of play around in that space. So yeah, Stamp Authority, fantastic. Next up is Kasai, Centauri Sellsword. Oh man, this has to be my favorite art in the entire set. I love Kasai. Definitely want to get a rainbow foil version of her. She is a warrior hero young with a 4 hand size and 20 life. She says your second sword attack each turn costs 1 resource less. At the beginning of your end phase, if you have attacked 2 or more times with weapons this turn, create a copper token for each weapon attack that hit. And a copper token is an item with action for 4 resources, destroy copper, draw a card, go again. Man, I love this. She really wants to attack multiple times with swords. There's a lot of cards in the set that help you do that. There's some cards from Welcome to Wraith that help you do that as well. Once again, the art is just amazing. I love this card. I definitely want to make a Blitz deck with Kasai at the helm, and just look at that excellent border. Yeah, I love this card. Speaking of warriors, next up we have Courage of Bladehold. This is the Majestic Warrior equipment. It's a chest. It has a defense value of 2. Action. Destroy Courage of Bladehold. Your sword attacks cost 1 less this turn. Go again. Doesn't say your next sword attack. All sword attacks cost 1 less this turn. This card is amazing. Super good for setting up really sweet combo heavy turns. It also has Temper. If you defend with Courage of Bladehold, put a -1 counter on it when the combat chain closes, then destroy it if it has 0. So you can basically only defend with this once or twice, but after that it gets destroyed. So you basically want to defend with this once if you want to take use of that action, and you definitely want to take use of this action. It's super sweet. I love cards like this that will definitely replace Tunic of Fyandel in some situations, and I think this one is one of the possibilities. It's really cool. Next up is another hero, the Datadoll MK2. This is the Mechanologist young hero, 3 hand size, which is quite less than most. It's very interesting that it's so low. 20 starting life, and it says, whenever a Mechanologist item with cost 2 or less is put into your banished zone from your deck, put it into the arena. Oh man, this is super cool. So basically you can load your deck up with a bunch of items and then a bunch of boost cards and try to boost through the items, and they just come right into play. I love heroes like this that kind of change the way you want to build a deck, and this is a definite different take on the Mechanologist class. I think this is really cool and definitely really fun to play around, especially in Blitz, or basically only in Blitz because it is a young hero. Next up, we have another Mechanologist card. This is a Mechanologist action attack with Magnetic Shockwave. This one's really sweet. Cost 2, has a pitch of 3, which is pretty cool. Has a damage of 4, and it says the defending hero must defend Magnetic Shockwave with X equipment they control, where X is the number of times you have boosted this turn. This is a really good way to force your opponent to defend with equipment they really don't want to defend with. Like the Tunic of Fyandel or something like that. Once again, I love these silver bullet cards that are kind of targeted towards specific things and also prevent future cards from getting too out of control. So if they come up with another really, really powerful equipment card that has Blade Break, Magnetic Shockwave can really help you deal with that. Once again, love this kind of effects. Also, the artwork is quite excellent. Next up is Kavdane, Trader of Skins. Okay, this one is super cool. This is a merchant hero, young, 4 starting hand size, 20 life. He's a merchant hero. Doesn't actually have any of the same classes that we've seen before, which makes this super, super interesting to me in terms of deck building. It says, once per turn action for 3 resources. If a hero has more life than any other hero, they lose a life and create a copper token. We've already kind of seen the copper token with Kasai also making copper tokens. Then if a hero has less life than any other hero, they gain a life. Go again. Man, this is super, super cool. I'm not a huge fan of his ability. I think it's pretty cool, especially in a like multiplayer setting. But the fact that he's a merchant hero is excellent. It really means that you have to play with a ton of neutral cards and neutral equipment. I would love to see what a Kavdane deck looks like, man. I think this is really, really cool. Definitely opens up a lot of deck building space. And look at it, he's so gross. Also, look at the artwork. There's a little like green-haired head mounted on the wall. Yeah, creepy. Next up, we have Remorseless. Wow, this card is a house. This is a Ranger arrow attack action, cost of 1, pitch value of 1, attack of 5. It's an arrow, which can only be played from your arsenal and only if you control a bow. If Remorseless is put into your arsenal face up until end of turn, it gains defense reactions can't be played from arsenal to Remorseless's chain link. That is nuts. That's so good. And it also says, if Remorseless hits a hero until the end of their next turn, whenever they play an action card, they lose 1 life. Holy smokes, this card is the real deal. 5 damage for 1 resource is an amazing attack value with an incredibly good on-hit effect, and it's also just that much harder to defend against. This really makes stuff like that Stamp Authority I talked about earlier much better because Remorseless is so powerful. Ranger definitely needed cards of this caliber, and I would not be surprised if we start seeing a lot more people play with Ranger because of this. Next up is Bloodsheath Skeleton. Remember how I talked about that Courage of Bladehold kind of replacing Tunic of Fyendel for some classes? Well, I believe this Bloodsheath will replace the Tunic for the Runeblade class. This card is so sweet. It says, instant, destroy Bloodsheath Skeleton, the next attack action card and non-attack action card you play this turn. Gain this card, costs 1 resource less to play for each rune chant you control. Oh my god, this is so good. You can reduce the cost by so much, especially those decks that really try to build up a ton of rune chants like my own Runeblade deck does, and then just kind of go to town and play something really big. This card is just absolutely fantastic, and it will definitely be replacing my Tunic in my version of the Runeblade deck. It also has Temper. Like we saw before, if you defend with it, it gets a -1 counter on it. And then when the combat chain closes, destroy it if it has 0 defense on it. It starts with 2 defense. This card is amazing. I definitely want to pull a foil one for my Runeblade deck. Speaking of Runeblade, we have Mauvrian Skies. Man, this card is super sweet. It's a Runeblade action, costs 0. There also is a yellow and a blue pitch version of them. I'll kind of go over those really quickly, but I really want to focus on the red pitch because it is the most spicy. It says the next Runeblade attack action you play this turn gains Go Again. First of all, that's amazing, by the way. You really want to give your next action cards Go Again because Runeblade really does well with playing multiple cards in a single turn. And it says, if this hits, create 3 rune chant tokens, and then go again. The yellow pitch version creates 2 rune chant tokens, and the blue pitch version creates 1 rune chant token. I think this card is a staple for the rune chant token style deck. I'm definitely going to be running probably a full 9 in my deck. I really like this card because, you know, it'll trigger all of those if you've played a non-attack action and an attack action card in the same turn triggers, because this gives the next attack action Go Again. You know, you can get your non-attack action in and you can get your attack action in for very little cost. This card, once again, just super great. I love it. I love this card for Runeblade. Next up is Coax a Commotion. This is probably going to be one of the headliner cards of the set. Probably one of the more expensive cards if I had to guess. This is a 0 cost red pitch value generic action attack, has an attack of 4, which is quite good. It says if Coax a Commotion hits, choose any number. each hero creates a quicken token, each hero draws a card, and each hero gains 1 life. And just to remind you, a quicken token is whenever you do an attack action, you can destroy the quicken token and gain go again. It might trigger also off of non-attack actions, but I think it's off of attack actions. I don't remember exactly. I'll probably put a copy up on the screen right now just so you can see. But in any case, Coax Some Commotion is fantastic. 0 cost, 4 damage, being able to draw cards, gain life, do what you need to do. This is going to be amazing for multiplayer formats. I definitely want to get a full playset of this card because it is just going to be so good, and you're going to want to consider running it in almost any deck, especially like controlling decks, I think. Next up is another very interesting card for multiplayer formats with the Gorgonian Tome. This is a very interesting card. It is a 0 cost generic action, no pitch, no defense, so keep that in mind. You cannot pitch this card, and you cannot defend with this card. It also says legendary. You can only have 1 Gorgonian Tome in your deck, which is very important for its effect. It says draw X cards, where X is 1 plus the number of Gorgonian Tomes in all graveyards go again. So if you are playing with Gorgonian Tome, and you're the first person to play with it, you just draw a card. But if someone else has played it, you get to draw 2 cards, and so on and so forth. I think this card is amazing in any kind of deck that you just want to play a generic action and then go again and get another option, because it automatically replaces itself by drawing a card. Really, really good. And the Runeblade style decks, like I mentioned, you really want to play a non-attack action followed by an attack action. And it's just super, super fun for multiplayer formats where everyone's playing with Gorgonian Tome and you can just draw a lot of cards. I love this card. This card is fantastic. And you only need 1 of them because it has legendary. And the final card I want to talk about today is one of the legendaries. It is Shauna, Diamond Gemini. Look at this beautiful card. This currently is my most wanted Flesh and Blood card because I love it so much. This is easily my favorite card of the set. She is a shapeshifter young hero, 4 hand size, 20 life total. You may have specialization cards of any hero in your deck, so this is going to be really sweet. You know it's going to be cool right off the bat. She's a shapeshifter. She can take anyone's specializations, and she also says, at the beginning of your action phase, Shauna becomes a copy of target hero until the start of your next turn, and gains cards you own are the class of your hero in addition to the other class types. There's a lot of tricky stuff going on with Shauna. I'm not entirely sure how folks are going to build her, but I definitely want to get a copy and build one to feature a video, to do a deck tech video for Shauna, because it's such a cool card, man. Just having that flexibility of having any specialization card in your deck and then becoming a copy of your opponent's hero is just, it's just so cool. And if you're playing multiplayer, once again, there's a lot of multiplayer stuff going on here. If you're playing multiplayer, you have a lot of different options to choose from. Just super cool card all around. Awesome artwork, awesome flavor. It's going to be a pretty big money card because of how rare it's going to be. I got my fingers crossed, hoping to pull at least one in my 2+ cases. And if not, then I guess I'm going to the secondary market and buying a copy for myself, because I got to get myself a copy of Shauna, Diamond Gemini. And the whole reason I'm not using an official, card image is because they don't have an image of this card or this hero yet on the official Flesh and Blood website. I guess they kind of wanted to hide it and, keep it secret for folks to discover as they're opening up their Crucible of War packs, which is, totally understandable. But that is it for today's video. Let me know what you thought of my top 10 favorite cards, and just keep in mind that they are just my favorite cards, not the best cards of this set. There's so many cool cards in Crucible of War, so I'm sure you have your own list, and I'm sure it's going to be different than my list. I'd be happy for you to share that in the comments down below, and maybe subscribe, like, comment, check out my Patreon. If you would like to support me directly, I do have some Patreon tiers where I give cards back to you. Not just cards, but sometimes booster packs back to you. For the Flesh and Blood tiers, that's going to be Crucible of War for the next couple months. So check out my Patreon, subscribe, and thank you very much for watching. I'll see you next time for some more card game content. I'll see you later.